Hola y bienvenidos to this week's Tarot Talk. I'm Auri Solares, and this week is the week of the Tauro full moon. We are going to have something happening every single day of this week, so the energy is high, active, charged, electric, and coming off of Samhain and Dia de los Muertos, we are catapulted into this part of the year where, regardless of if you're into astrology or not, is a lot busier, faster, a little bit more difficult for you to catch your breath if you are in the service industry or in any aspect of the society that we're currently in, which values a much faster pace of life, November and December. So it's the beginning of November, and we start off the week with Venus in Libra making a square to Jupiter in Cancer. When two benefics come into relationship with each other, namely in this instance a square, the tension is not so much brought on from discomfort or pain or anger. It's more like you have too much of a good thing and you feel that it's too much of that good thing. So Venus in Libra, she is in her domicile here. She rejoices in this sign. She's able to flirt and connect and build relationships with strangers on a whim and to engage in very playful and stimulating conversation. And her way of balancing her priorities is really heightened at this time. Her magnetism for beauty and aesthetics and money and finances is just at an all-time high. And with Jupiter in Cancer exalted, as I've spoken of many, many times, themes of our emotional intelligence, our healing, our relationship with the body, the home, the intuition, and this overall sense of nurturance and comfort and warmth is really coming to us from that direction. So blend those energies together, and what do you think you get? There might be a tendency for you to maybe overshare in your social relationships. Maybe you are just going on and on about your own emotional life, thinking that you're building a connection, but it's crossing into boundaries. Or maybe you are inclined to spend a little bit more than you normally would for an event or on yourself or for a trip, and realizing that that is doing a little bit of retail therapy and that you maybe needed a different avenue for you to cope with something, as opposed to just spending a bunch of money that you may or may not have had available for that. Again, it's a lovely influence. It's good for going out into the world and connecting with others. It's good for spending time in your home and beautifying the home as we go into this last part of the year, into the winter season. It is sweet for just indulging in all things beauty and love and pleasure and money. Just be mindful of going overboard, because there is a high probability that you will feel it. To use an example, you're at a banquet and there's so much beautiful food in front of you, and you just start stuffing your mouth and you're unbelievably full. You cannot take another bite, and you can't even go and dance at the party that you're at because you are filled to the brim and you're uncomfortable and you want to go home, you want to take a nap, and the night is a little bit soiled. Otherwise, if this is the start of the week, I'm very happy. And just also to say, Venus is going to be the ruler of this full moon. So in this condition, I think that it's giving goddess who's being fed grapes by her attendees while she is sitting on a throne and overseeing her palace. It feels very much that. But we'll keep going. On Monday the 3rd, we are going to have Mars in Scorpio making a trine to Neptune in Pisces. And this feels like Mars's final sojourn from its domicile. It's about to go into Sagittarius. This little moment in time could be a good opportunity for you to meditate on what your dreams are, what your creative projects are, and what actions you are taking to get yourself there. This is a little bit of a dark fantasy kind of aspect, if you ask me, and so it might be a good day for you to just allow yourself to explore your creative side and to see how that can be cathartic for your emotional well-being and where you're at in this moment in your creative journey. Then, Tuesday the 4th, Mars enters Sagittarius. Mars in Sagittarius feels like an agent of chaos. Mars is kind of always an agent of chaos, but In Sagittarius, I think of a court jester. I think of a clown performing high, intense, dangerous acts that are meant to appease to the crowd, but also the performer is doing it for their own philosophical experiment. So we might be really walking our talk or walking our philosophies at this time. We might also be a little bit more prone to engaging in philosophical debates. We want to move with a sense of purpose that not only benefits the here and now, but the long-term bigger picture. And because it's a fire sign, Mars here moves really comfortably. So I think of someone who is really optimistic and jovial and ready to just hit the ground running and is running this race to not only uplift the community or to work towards a cause, but because it makes Mars feel like it has this higher sense of purpose. So Mars in Sagittarius, I think, is going to be really interesting. And soon thereafter, its ingress into Sag, it's going to make an opposition to Uranus and Gemini. Now, independent from Mars and Sagittarius's natural attributes, when Mars and Uranus come together, that is absolutely a recipe for chaos. That is a recipe for explosions, sudden influxes of heat or fire, disruption that is pretty sudden and violent or aggressive. It could be surprising in a good way or in a negative way. It really is hard to say what way it'll flow considering the unpredictability of Uranus. And Mars is a malefic here, so it could be jarring in a way that is not the most constructive for your well-being or the body or the week ahead. So whatever activities you're engaging in starting on Tuesday and kind of moving forward, just keep in mind that for now, because Uranus is going to do something, for now, just be a little bit careful about how you're moving through the world. This could be an accident-prone moment in time, so you don't want to risk anything when Mars and Uranus come together. It's just a recipe for, I don't know, you know what this feels like? Like maybe you have travel plans and as soon as you were about to get on an airplane, there's like an engine malfunction and they have to go and treat the airplane before you get on. So there's a bit of a delay, something along those lines. And I say that because Sagittarius loves to travel. Gemini is travel itself or modes of transportation. So that's a more literal example, but this can manifest any which kind of way, positive or negative, depending on how your chart is structured. Then Wednesday, the 5th, we have the full moon in Tauro. The moon actually entered Tauro on Tuesday, and it immediately squared Pluto in Aquario, which brings always about a sense of weightedness that demands you take it seriously, a sense of intensity in our emotions. This lunation is ruled by Venus, which, as I mentioned earlier, is in Libra, her domicile. So she's in fabulous condition. And although we have this square from Pluto that demands our attention and demands that we take it seriously, we have other aspects taking place on Wednesday the 5th that mitigate any sort of heaviness or despair that Pluto could bring into the chat. This lunation is happening at 13 degrees of Tauro. So if you have any major planets in Tauro, you will feel this, or any of the other fixed signs. The full moon in Tauro will be in a sextile aspect to the North Node in Pisces, and will then also sextile Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. This lunation feels like it wants to gift us encouragement and support in regulating our nervous system, in regulating our way of showing up into the world, in considering how we're moving towards what we love and value, what our dreams might be, and it's significant. Full moons are a time when we release what no longer serves us so that we can plant seeds going into the new moon. And for this lunation, what chapters in your life are coming to a close so that you can evolve and transcend into the next version of yourself? Or in whatever aspect of your chart this falls in, these are going to be really lovely energies for you to just claim out into the universe what you are complete with, what you are done accepting, so that you can welcome in more of what you know that you deserve or desire. Because Tauro is a sign that loves comfort, stability. It's financially invested. It's involved in that, in pleasure of the tangible world, in food and in the body and what brings that pleasure, right? So maybe this lunation would be a good moment in time for you to release shame. There's that Pluto influence around what you find pleasure in. It's a good moment for you to release the restrictions that maybe you didn't realize you put upon yourself about how much pleasure you deserve, or how much beauty you deserve, or how much money you deserve. How much money do you think that you deserve to have in life throughout your lifespan? How much beauty and pleasure do you think that you deserve? Is that holding you back? Are you comfortable with this analysis? Do you want to bring in something new? Use this lunation to light a fire, whatever unconscious foundation of beliefs you may have been running in the background, so that you can plant new seeds of a more resonant belief system about what you are deserving of. And spoiler alert, it is our birthright to experience beauty and pleasure and abundance. And anything that contradicts that belief stems from a lesson that you have to learn. And we're not going to spiritually bypass our lessons, right? So this is all easier said than done. And I'm not saying that this lunation is going to be the end all be all for you to be able to reach financial freedom and romantic love that is your soulmate connection forever and ever. But it's a good moment in time for you to really sit down and assess, what are my belief systems around these Taurian themes, around the body and these material things that I value, but also my own belief system of values. And this is me interweaving the North Node's influence, Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune here, because when we get really clear about what we feel we deserve versus what we don't, we have so much more structure towards building for ourselves a long-term plan of what we want to commit to, both for ourselves and for others that we may engage in relationships with or just in our community. And this can bestow us a tremendous sense of satisfaction and purpose and joy in the life that we're living. I like this lunation. I think it's very sweet and enjoy it because Thursday the 6th, Venus, the ruler of this lunation, who is in her domicile of Libra, is going into her fall of Scorpio. Venus doesn't like to be in Scorpio. We'll get to that in a bit. First, Mars in Sagittarius will sextile Pluto in Aquarius. So there's like an underlying intensity to this week that demands that we pay attention to it and sit with the discomfort and then work with what it brings us and transmute it and alchemize it towards something productive, to physically move through something that wants to come up at this time. This could be on a collective level or on an internal level, whatever it is that Pluto might be showing us in terms of intensity or power dynamics or control structures, or what we're even obsessed with at this time, whether we like it or not. Mars in Sagittarius is taking that energy and it's saying, I need to move this. I need to get it out of here. I need to alchemize it and transmute it. So I think that this is helpful. Then with Venus going into Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio feels like every goddess of the underworld that you can think of. She is so available and willing to sit with these sharp, uncomfortable emotions and find the beauty in them. Sometimes, and I think this is an experience that a lot of people can resonate with, when you are in your sadness or when you are in your despair or when you are in your discomfort, there is a sting in the heart that feels almost pleasurable. That in and of itself is kind of dark, isn't it? It's a little bit morbid, but there is pleasure there. There is pleasure even in darkness. And if you say that out loud, people would be like, oh, why would you derive pleasure from a very dark place? Why wouldn't you? You're already there. So Venus in Scorpio has the gift and the power and the ability to do that. It doesn't mean that she thrives here. She has a pretty difficult time. Relationships, romantic, platonic, familial, might undergo a sense of intensity right now, especially if Venus is playing a significant role in your year. But ultimately, this will highlight for you what needs to change in your approach in relationships and in your relationship with yourself. Where are you at with that? What dark, looming, creepy skeletons are knocking on the closet door, begging to come out so that you can sit with them, have a nice chat with them, and then hopefully bury them in your garden of alchemy and transcendence, and let the seeds of the bones kind of bloom into something beautiful and wonderful that is hopefully a version of wisdom that is applicable for your life moving forward. Friday the 7th, we have Uranus retrograding back into Tauro. So at the beginning of the week, I did mention on Tuesday, just be mindful during this Mars and Sagittarius Uranus opposition. But now that Uranus is back in Tauro, which we had for a really long time before this year, we are going to start re-experiencing themes of disruptions, surprises, chaos, or revisions in the fields of our life that have to do with stability, financial sectors, food, pleasure, indulgence, pace of life, livestock, farming, on a collective level or an internal level. This is an outer planet. We may not feel it pretty instantly unless Tauro is playing a significant role in your life at this time. For example, if you're in a Taurus perfection year, then you will feel Uranus a bit more pointedly. Otherwise, this might take a second to show up. Uranus is going to be retrograding through Tauro for a minute. So this is just something interesting that's taking place considering that Venus is now in her fall. And so there's a little bit of a relationship here between Uranus and Venus because these are the fixed signs, Tauro and Scorpio, and so they're forming a square. So there's a bit of tension here with Venus being the ruler of Uranus, but she's in her fall and there's this tension happening. So that adds a little bit more fuel to the fire, you could say, to our relational aspects in life, our financial aspects of life. Something to keep in mind. They're not making a square yet, but do you know who is making a square to Venus in Scorpio? Pluto in Aquario. Pluto just keeps wanting to be in the conversation this week. She is making a square. So who are you obsessed with right now? Who are you in limerence with right now? Or who has been just showing up at your doorstep? What dark fantasies have you been having about relationships? What feels a little bit taboo to admit to yourself lately? How are your finances doing? Are you in a dark place financially and you really need to start either saving or considering other forms of income? What is your relationship right now to your body and to yourself and to women? These are all themes that can come up. Venus and Pluto in a tense aspect, like a square in a fixed sign, could look like out in the world, prominent women figures out and about going through challenges of power imbalances, maybe within a certain industry that they're in, challenging them about something, or perhaps really unfortunate, sad stories coming to light of something that a woman has experienced throughout her career or throughout her time in a certain industry or project. On a personal level, that could be the case with someone that you know, or that might be something that is surfacing for you. If you're not a woman, if you're a man, we all have feminine energy. And this is just a moment in time where that feminine energy is really being asked to purge something, a trauma, something dark, so that it can come to light and be alchemized and transformed into something that hopefully is conducive and constructive for not only ourselves in this moment in time, but for the role that we play with others in our community. And I think that women right now are waking up to a lot of programming around dating standards and not wanting to settle for being in relationships that are subpar and mediocre and with partners that don't truly see them or value them for who they are. And especially with the rise of, how connected we are on social media and women being able to share their stories and their perspectives on being empowered individuals and being selective of who they want to share their life with and who they want to be in partnership with. And that brings up a lot of dark stuff because it doesn't just require a critique on how the opposite party moves in these romantic situations, but it raises the question, well, how are women showing up as well? What needs to be transformed on our side? Because it's never just pointing fingers to the other side and saying, the problem is only over there. No, healing needs to happen on both sides. That could be a form of how this shows up for you. Otherwise, you may just notice at this time there might be a person in your life who represents this feminine energy that you are having some conflict or some tension or some control issues with, and it would be advised for you to observe and sit back and really just pay attention to what's coming through instead of striking quickly, because we have that Uranus and Tauro influence, which is forming an indirect whole sign based square to Venus as well. And that could just get sticky really fast. It's Friday though, so this could be a day where maybe you take a moment to just take care of yourself and not overpromise to anyone and just really prioritize your boundaries at this time. Then Saturday the 8th, we are going to have the Sun in Scorpio making a trine to the North Node in Pisces. The Sun at this point is following in the steps of Mercury and Mars, who have also made a trine to the North Node in Pisces. So my delineation for this continues to be an emphasis on how we are thinking about our future and our dreams and what we have a hunger for in relation to what we feel really passionate about and what we feel really deeply about. And are those connecting? Are those the same thing? What actions are we taking to manifest what we desire, what we want to see more of in the world? And how is that changing us in the process without maybe us even realizing it? So, bit of a week, honestly, lots happening. I would advise that if you are going to be doing a lot of social events at this time, just really center yourself. Don't overpromise, don't overshare, don't overgive. Remain centered in yourself as much as possible. And if anything sticky or challenging arises, observe it as much as possible from a place of neutrality. But know that if you do get triggered or your emotions quickly come to the forefront and you're like, I feel very strongly about this thing and I'm going to choose to engage in a debate or an argument about this, do it with intention and do it with your chest. It's going to happen either way. Just know that on the other side of it, that's not going to gently come to a tapered hug and everything's going to be okay. There's a lot of unpredictability to this week. And if you decide that you want to do something, regardless of the astrology being like super apt for it, that's life, as you should. And it would be wise to just have anticipation of, well, if I choose to go on a motorbiking adventure through this path of the woods that I've never been on, the day that Mars in Sagittarius opposes Uranus and Gemini, I might want to have somebody with me in case I fall off and, get really injured. Something along those lines, right? So hindsight is always 20/20, but astrology kind of helps us have some sense of understanding of what we can do to be prepared for the future, because we cannot micromanage ourselves in alignment with the astrology. That's not how astrology is meant to work. We are meant to live our lives in as much authenticity as is available to us in any given moment. What happens is going to happen, and we can use the stars as tools for us to understand why it might be happening, what could possibly be upcoming, and how you can prepare for that. And if you want to move a little bit differently from that, but if you don't, that's okay. You're not in trouble. Just know these are the signatures in the sky at the moment, and they are always weaving a story. It's not a good week. It's not a bad week. It's just a really charged week. And so however it is that it shows up for you, I hope that it is illuminating something really important for you in your life. I loved the full moon falls dead smack center in the week, and I think that it bestows upon us a lot of healing, beautiful, magical energy, and I think that that can really keep us going as we continue into the future. We're going to draw a card now and just see what it is that we most need to know from these alignments. Okay. We have the Nine of Pentacles, and this card feels like a full moon in Tauro's energy. It is a card that really stops to slow down and smell the roses and speak with the birds and to really have this embodied, connected moment with yourself and with the earth. You're walking through your garden, or you're walking through everything that you've accomplished in life, and you're enjoying what you have created for yourself. This feels like a card that is saying, stop, smell the roses, give yourself credit for all that you've done and where you've gotten yourself. Maybe the path right now isn't super smooth, maybe it's a little bumpy or rocky, but just look at how far you've come. Give yourself credit for that. And even if it gets tense or challenging, Is there room within yourself for you to take a breath and just find the irony in everything, and to find it a little bit comical that whatever lesson you're experiencing right now is so pointedly created for you, and that's just what's showing up, and the only way out of it is through. This card feels like making the most of a situation. It feels like being grateful for all that you have. This is perhaps an invitation for you to take as much of that energy with you throughout the week, even in the moments where it gets rocky or challenging or sticky with some of these squares and these Plutonian energies that we've got. How can we still derive beauty in a moment where things are starting to get a little bit dark? How do we find beauty in our life when the circumstances are not ideal? That's the lesson of Venus in Scorpio. Where can we still extract magic from a situation that we would have otherwise not chosen to be in? We don't have control over every situation that we end up in life. We do have control over our perspective and over what we want to derive from that situation and how it's going to add value back into our lives. So whatever it is that comes up for you right now, challenge yourself to see how much you can experience a sense of value in it. You don't have to love it, but if you can take a challenging situation and say, I choose to value whatever it is that this is trying to teach me, then that is in and of itself a tremendous way of transcending who you are into a version of yourself that is more resilient. And that is really powerful. So I don't want to build this week up to make it seem like it's going to be negative. I have no clue how it's going to land for you. All I know is that it's not going to be the smoothest. And this reminds me of, I saw a TikTok of this girl who said that she low-key likes turbulence when she's, flying in the air. And so how can you make peace with whatever turbulence comes up? Do you kind of like it when things are chaotic and the pieces are all shuffling around? What do you feel comes from that? Does it inspire you? And do you therefore inspire others? However it is that you work with these energies, there's always something that you can take from them and use them to elevate yourself and elevate your life and your spirit and your soul, and to be in gratitude for, because at the end of the day, there's so much to be grateful for. That's the week. That's the card. I hope that I didn't scare you. There's nothing to be scared of. This is a really beautiful full moon that's upcoming. And I think that these energies will be really cathartic, really catalyzing for what it is that we are trying to launch ourselves into. It's going to help us and support us in the growth necessary for us to go from the person that we are now to maybe the person that we need to be to achieve a certain thing. Who you are right now is exactly who you're supposed to be. And the goal is not to always heal and strive to be different or better. You are exactly how you're supposed to be right now. And there are energies around that are coming through to support you in further discovering different parts of yourself that maybe you're not aware of. And if you feel so inclined, you can use them as opportunities and doors to step into a new level of your being on Earth. So with that, I hope that this was helpful. And I will see you next week to talk about the astrology for the week of November the 9th. Thank you for spending time with me. Cuídense.